Hey guys, so I just wanted to make a build here today about what to do if you're sick and tired of the Hammer of the Ancients or the Whirlwind build. I've checked a lot of the Diablo 3 forums, specifically like the main forums, the game forums, the Reddit forums, any forums you can imagine that talk about Diablo 3. I've probably been there looking at ways to build out this Barbarian since Reaper of Souls hit. And I'm not going to stand here and make the argument that Whirlwind or Hammer of the Ancients are bad builds, but those are the two primary builds for Barbarians right now for the reason that they are the most efficient at damage and they do very well at what they do. But if you're looking for something else just because you're sick and tired of mashing the Hammer of the Ancients button, or you're sick and tired of holding down Whirlwind and not much else going on for you, what I've done is looked for other viable builds that Barbarians can do where maybe you're not as effective, but you're not really suffering too much of a damage loss. So what I've done here today is take the traditional Barbarian fire build, and rather than use Overpower and Stomp and Smash with the Hammer of the Ancients build, what I've taken is a Seismic Slam build with Bash. So what I'm using specifically today are, you can see my overall stats here. I have 18% more fire damage on my bracers and 20% more fire damage on my axe, and that's it. I don't have a Mage Fist. If I had a Mage Fist that was trifected, that would be great, but I just haven't gotten one that beats these gloves yet, unfortunately. So, I mean, you can see I'm not even fully optimized for this build. I could be doing easily another 20% more fire damage if I got a, awesome Mage Fist roll. I just don't have those yet. I could get some rings or some amulets as well to do it, but my amulet, unfortunately, I had to reroll crit chance on it instead of changing the physical to fire damage. So, yeah, I could be doing a lot more fire damage on this build. So I just want you to, I'm showing this build off as how powerful it is, and I'm not even really optimized for it yet. Like, it could be a heck of a lot stronger. It could be potentially stronger than some of those other builds you see out there, some other variants in the Hammer of the Ancients build. Maybe not the pure form, but at least some of the variants. So the runes I'm using today, or the abilities I'm using today, are Bash with Pulverize. So this changes Bash's damage to fire, ups the damage, and then it provides this shockwave that does 70% weapon damage is fired at enemies in a 26-yard line behind the primary enemy. Pretty awesome. That's going to be your AoE, that's going to be your Fury generator, and you're going to generate a lot of Fury with that because you're going to be hitting multiple targets. Avalanche with Volcano, this is your main damage dealing ability. Alright, 4,400% weapon damage is awesome. The downside is it's not in a big AoE like the other avalanches are. It's an AoE on the ground, but then little like fireballs pop out, and those are what actually damage the enemies, and so they hit at random. And so if you have a big cluster of enemies, you're only ever hitting like one enemy with each fireball at a time. You're not like covering all enemies at once, which is unfortunate. But this is how you take on bosses and single elites, and specifically like a Rift boss. If you can get them isolated and drop this at their feet, you will smoke through their health. It's basically like Omnislash. It's just, if there's only one target, you're gonna just, everything's gonna hit that one target, and it's gonna be amazing. Battle Rage with Bloodshed. This is good because a lot of your abilities, your Seismic Slam and your Bash are both AoEs, and so if you're critting, it's popping Battle Rage Bloodshed, then you're going off and hitting a bunch of other things, and it's just causing that wave explosion. We're all familiar with this. I used Warcry in this build because my toughness is pretty low. Arguably, if you're a better Barbarian than I am, you've got more toughness, you could make the case for, well, you could make the case for maybe using Impunity or something else. I like Invigorate because this build actually has a caveat of it's ranged. I can actually like chicken out of a fight if I'm not doing so hot and just regenerate health and then go back into it. Or, I can stand back if it's a big fat slow enemy but he hits really hard. I can sit back and hit him from range and basically keep my health above half the whole time, even on Torment 3. Seismic Slam, so here's our main ability, 710%. This is compared to Hammer of the Ancients and Smash, which is 640%, so we're actually dealing a heck of a lot more damage than even a Hammer of the Ancients build if we land our Seismic Slams. The downside is Hammer of the Ancients has a really kind of tight but predictable impact point. So when you use Hammer of the Ancients, it's like right at your feet. Seismic Slam, unfortunately, has this ability that when I cast it like that, there's this really narrow area right at my feet where there can be an enemy, like if let's say this orange brother Anselm was a mob. If he was a mob and he was like right there and I cast it like that, I wouldn't hit him. And so that's unfortunate because this is a 30 Fury that we just threw down the toilet to miss a mob that's right at our feet. So you actually kind of like, if you're fighting a guy like that, you want to take a step back and then do that and then hit him. It's something that you have to learn when you're using Seismic Slam. It's a pain in the butt, but you're hitting for 710%. So you really want to make those hits count. And then Wrath of the Berserker with Insanity, you could switch this out to Slaughter. That's certainly viable because, again, you are hitting so many things in an AoE. Or you could switch this out for Call of the Ancients and then do Ancients with the Council Rises because you're a fire build. And I would actually suggest you do Council Rises over Slaughter even if you're looking for AoE. Because you have Bloodshed, and because you're already hitting for 710%. Because this build does have a weakness against highly mobile targets, or it does have a weakness against mobs that just have a ton of health. Like Torment 3, Rift bosses, you will be taking a while to kill things. That being said, point me to a build that doesn't take a while, and outside of a Shard of Hate Barbarian, and I'll be pretty surprised. So for our passive skills, we're using the standard Weapons Master and Rampage, and then Unforgiving because we need as much Fury as we can. I have tried, if you switch Unforgiving to Animosity, it can work. That is actually viable. It's sometimes if you hit a pack of mobs that's a little thin, or you get into a rift that's just dead. We've all been in those like rifts where you get like 2% of your bar filled before you get to the exit. Animosity may not work out so well, but in those ones where it's just tightly packed, lots of mobs, lots of fighting, definitely Animosity can actually be better than Unforgiving. So keep that in mind. You can change it up on the fly, and then I like to use Ruthless because 40% additional damage is insane, and because we're hitting so hard, a lot of the time we will be knocking mobs below 30% health and then hitting them again. And what this is going to do is allow for 20 million, like 15 to 20 million damage crits on Seismic Slam, which then proc Bloodshed. So you are basically looking at a Barbarian that can stand at range, hit things for 20 million damage, 15, 20 million damage, they blow up, and they hit everything around them for the Bloodshed damage. And you can also then be using Bash and Pulverize for like 4 to 5 million. Really pretty strong. I'm going to demo what it looks like to play this character. The downside is I want to point out right now, I'm not going to go through all of my gear because that's really boring, and I'll provide a link to my armory. I do have 49% crit chance and a 503% critical hit damage. These two pieces are absolutely critical to making a Seismic Slam build work. Alright, the reason for that is because Seismic Slam, even though I'm hitting a heck of a lot harder, Hammer of the Ancients has that 1% increased critical hit chance for every 5 Fury that you have. So you actually are going to crit a lot more often with Hammer of the Ancients than you will with Seismic Slam. So if you're going to use Seismic Slam, you want to make sure that you do have this really high crit chance. Alright, so let's get into some gameplay of this, and I'll show you what it's like. You can see if you like it, see if it's enjoyable to you. You know, again, I'm not making the argument that this is better than Whirlwind or Hammer of the Ancients. I'm just saying this is a fun alternative, and it's certainly enjoyable. So here I'm just using my bash ability right now, and clicking too much. So bash with pulverize, and you can see that it's pretty strong. Easily clears out, you know, boggets, but what doesn't? And then here is a demonstration of my Seismic Slam. Now, as you can see, it's not critting yet, so you know you're still hitting for about 1.5 million non-crit, which is pretty good. Not great, it's pretty good. But let's see if we can try and find a big pack of mobs here, and I'll demonstrate what it's like when you can stand at range and just blow up a whole wave. All right. Unfortunately, of course, like I thought there would be a bunch of boggets to blow up, and there are now no boggets. Alright, so here's an elite pack. It's got extra health and an arcane enchanted. We are on torment too, so it's not like this is gonna go, not like they're gonna die right away, but as you can see, I'm hitting for 12 million there, hitting for 15 there, 13 there, and what I'm also doing is knocking everything back. So I can kind of keep on the periphery of these fights when I don't get frozen like an idiot, and hit everything and knock them away from me. Now, that's not my main damage ability. I want to stress this. Bash is just my Fury generator. It's not my main damage ability. If you use this build and just start spamming Bash, you are going to take a while to kill things. Alright, and even your Seismic Slam isn't necessarily your main damage ability. So what I'm going to do now is pop Insanity and drop my Avalanche and show you what that does and how quickly you start tearing through things. Now again, like you're saying, like, well, yeah, like you pop Insanity and use Hammer of the Ancients, you'll just barbecue anything too. Yeah, but again, we're not showing something that's necessarily better, we're showing something that's a viable alternative. So those were extra health Torment 2 mobs that we just literally melted into the ground. You saw a couple 18, 20 million damage crits in there, I think. I've definitely hit over 20 million, but I'm trying to give it a rough ballpark. And again, I don't have optimized gear. You could definitely get much more optimized gear to make this build even better. But I just wanted to show you this build today because that's Torment 2. Alright, I was never in any danger of dying. I could clear this rift in the blink of an eye, and I'm getting a heck of a lot more XP and chance to find legendaries and gold. And this is just a fun build. It's very flashy. You get in a group with this build, and everyone, you know, you're standing back there with the demon hunters, and you're doing this. They're like, "What are you doing?" And you're getting the killing blow half the time on the elite mobs because not that that matters for anything but your ego, but they're people start asking you what your build is. So it is pretty fun. I hope if you do try this build, I hope you have fun with it. If you're not interested in this build, that's totally fine. There's some other builds I'm going to be doing. I frequently run crazy builds on my Twitch channel. I'll be providing a link to that as well. But again, there's a lot of room here for tweaking. You can tweak Warcry, you could tweak Wrath of the Berserker, and you could make your own build if you don't like this. So yeah, get out there, have fun, and try not to stick entirely to the same 2 builds all the time. Let yourself be creative and let yourself have fun with this game, alright? Have a good day, and thanks for watching.